Hi again then guys, and welcome to another special projects / Dirtmasters Unplugged kind of build, because of course the final car from the 1.47 selection in GT Sport to tune is the Mazda Demio. Now originally I was planning, and I think I even mentioned as much, to probably do an N100 circuit build for this car because it's quick. Maybe an N200, but more likely N100. However, despite the fact that I expected it to be very good and that many other people love the way this thing performs as well, it ain't that fast. And I'm sorry to say that, but compared to all of the other N100 and N200 builds that I've done, it's quite far off the pace in fact. And that's disappointing because it does feel like a very good car. Now, what I chose to do instead of that is to see could this be an interesting rally build instead, because although of course rallying is not quite as important in GT Sport as circuit racing is, at least for those who do want to use this car in a potentially more dominant form, if that happens to be rallying, then why not? Why not get the best out of it? And thankfully, it turns out that this is a very good little rally car. Now, as you can see, I've tuned it to N200, and of course it has the unique advantage, or disadvantage, depending on how you look at it, of being a diesel rally car, which, if nothing else, is a neat trick compared to a number of others. Now, as far as power goes, I've got it on 237%, which of course is the peak of N200. The weight is as low as it can go at 950 kilos. Of course, traction control is off. Make sure, as I always say, that up here you've got it set on the dirt setting before you start tuning, because otherwise it just changes it to dirt and you'll lose all of your settings. Then, as far as the tyres, of course, dirt tyres. As far as the suspension, the ride height is actually a little bit lower than they set it at. I think they put it on 160. I've changed it to 150, as you can see, because that's still more than high enough. As far as the frequency, I've actually put it all the way down to make it not just fast, but also a lot of fun as well, and having softer springs can often make a car a lot more fun off-road. As far as the anti-roll, they are on, as you can see, 8 and 7. Then for the compression and the rebound on the dampers, just like with the springs, they are as low as they can go. So the car's not constantly bottoming out or rolling through corners, but at the same time it soaks up all of the bumps and actually makes it quicker overall. Now, as far as the camber, you could change it, of course, being a front-wheel drive off-roader. It's going to be potentially the kind of car that has a little bit more understeer, a little bit more torque steer, especially being a diesel, but I find that 1 degree on the front and none on the back works pretty well for this one. Then we've got neutral toe, of course. Downforce cannot be adjusted. As far as the diff, I've got the, as you can see, lowest initial torque, lowest acceleration, and then the highest sensitivity on the braking. You don't have to do that, of course, but that's what I've opted for. And finally, for the transmission, again, this depends on how much power you give it, but I've gone for a relatively close ratio setup with, of course, the fully customized transmission, auto setting of 149 miles per hour, then individual gears of 2575, 1675, 1250, 1, 825, and 700, with a final drive of 3.85. So of course, if you want to make the gears closer or make them a bit longer, that's all down to you, and of course it will depend on the amount of power that you give it as well. But in N200, with front-wheel drive and a diesel engine, what can this actually do as a rally car? Well, let's find out. Well, as it turns out, it's actually very good off-road. The front-wheel drive certainly is not a disadvantage. You can really chuck it through corners, and the only point at which I would recommend being careful or cautious is how much power you give it through the middle of a corner. You can power it out of a corner easily, you can certainly throw it into a corner. It's that mid-section where a little bit of torque steer and understeer from the front-wheel drive can really kick into place, so just be cautious of that. It is, however, very quick. For an N200 car, this is, I can't remember the exact time, but it's faster than some of my N300 and even N400 builds. So for an N200 car, that's pretty quick. And it's not even that far behind some of the actual Group B modern rally cars that are in the game. It's like, I think 3 seconds off the pace of some of them, so that's pretty good for an N200 car. Overall then, if you do decide to use this tune, I hope of course you have a ton of fun with it, and click here on screen to see all of my other tunes as well. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.